over. Okay. So those of you that are listening to this now, you missed, I ended class significantly early, like with 3 minutes in. So I just restarted everything. We're going to try this again one more time. Okay. Now, and again, this, well, that's the wrong thing. You know, I'll get it right at some point today. There we go. Okay. So in your book, those that are just joining us, if you came back on, I apologize. I don't like you, so I just stopped class. So we just started back. Guys, there's no telling what's going to happen today. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm super cloudy, but I'm just going to keep going and we're going to figure it all out. Okay. You'll realize something about me if you've never had me before. I'm pretty laid back. Good. Okay. In your book, now this might look a little different now. I need to get a new picture. This is an old one, but it's still got the same sections in it. So throughout your book, in every chapter, there's 2 or 3 of these review, connect, reflect sections, and they're all in every chapter. They're all throughout. I think the first chapter might have 1 or 2. The rest of the chapters have 2 or 3, I believe. And so in those sections, this is what your exercises will be based on. So when you see exercise 1 or 2 or 3, this is where you're going to go. And so as you're reading, you can pick one of these sections, and literally all you're going to do is answer the questions in the section. So in the review section here, you'll answer all of those review questions. You will answer the connect. Typically it's a reflection or like a connect the material to your life kind of thing. And then you'll do a reflection, which is basically what it says, or reflecting on your journey in whatever process it's talking about. You're going to answer all 3 of those sections. And what you answer, you're going to turn that into me on paper, on a document. The one change that I have made, and this is super important, and I'm going to change it on the material on Moodle. I actually just decided this today, and I'm being super honest for selfish reasons. I'm only going to make you do 1 of those per assignment. I used to make them do, I've been having students do 2 of them. Actually, I started out doing 3 of those every assignment. And then I went to 2. Now I'm going to go to 1. So don't look at that, choose 2 of these sections. You'll choose 1 of these sections per assignment, and you'll turn that into me. That's the first part. The second part of the assignment will be a forum discussion, which you'll have a week between when you turn this into me and making a forum post, plus comments on other students' posts. And I've got like forum questions or forum reflection questions on the forum already. You'll just read that and just put your answer on the forum. And this is all on Moodle. Okay. I don't have a certain number of, here, let me get to the comments here. I'd like for people to make at least 2 comments on 2 different posts. I think it's helpful if you do that. That way you're reading more than just one thing and making a comment. To be quite honest with you, what I have found with this assignment, since we're not meeting in person, these posts become really good interaction between students. I've seen a lot of really good interaction on the forum. So the basic gist of this assignment is one of those sections you're going to choose and answer the questions in the section on a document. You're going to turn that into me, and then you're going to make a forum post based on whatever the question I ask on the forum. and then you're going to make comments on at least 2 classmates' posts. Okay? And you're going to do that 3 times. The next question I get is, does it have to come from a certain chapter? And I'm going to tell you no, and then I'm going to get 20 questions about this, because I know people, you just overthink it. You start doing this, here's what happens. I've been doing this a long time. You start doing this assignment, and it's pretty easy, and you're like, this is too easy. I'm missing something. And then your student brain, there's a part of your student brain, it's like right here in the back of your brain, it's like in the back corner, in the right hemisphere of your brain, that transfers into the upper right, that not quite to the prefrontal. And the right part of our brain is the storytelling part, the creative part. And that part will say, this is too easy. I really think I did something wrong, and I need to ask a question. So 20 or 30 students will say, is it really just answer these questions? That's what's going to happen. Okay. That's called overthinking, and it's a human being problem that we all have, including me. And it really manifests itself more when something seems too easy. Like this is really exactly what I just said. You're going to do exactly what I just said. It's not very hard. I'm not asking you to cite anything, Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Stacy. This is what human beings do. We're going to talk about this actually. But you're going to answer those questions. You're going to turn that into me. You're going to post something on the forum. You're going to make comments on the posts. And that's it. That's literally the whole. You're going to do that 3 times. Now, see, I've scared everyone. Nobody's going to ask a question because I know it's already started. It's okay. It's okay. Your brain is going to adapt to every teacher and every teacher's style. So if you've had me before, some of you know that it's really that easy. If you've never had me before, you're still thinking, what's the catch? It cannot be like this. Yeah, someone's already right. Yeah, see? Yeah, I got a lot of comments here. This is good. I like it. Let's keep it up. So, guys, I'm a therapist, so we're going to do some therapy in here. It's free. I could charge everybody $200 at the end of this thing, but I'm going to give you guys free stuff. This is free. Okay? This assignment is exactly what it looks like. It's super easy. However, I understand if people do have questions because it is a little bit easy. Do you have any questions about this? Who's brave enough I know someone's got a question. Someone has to.
Okay, I'll go.
Yes, go.
Okay, just for clarification.
Yeah.
On when you say I'm choosing one, am I choosing to do just the review questions or connect or reflect or do all 3 of those?
All 3.
Okay. And then my forum post and then reply to other students.
That's it. You got it. You just taught the whole class right there. That's it.
Okay.
So what you just did was listen and reflect. See, that's what therapists do. You did it. That's
Got
perfect.
it.
Great question.
Do that. Thank
Is your name Sharon or Sharon?
Sharon.
Sharon. Okay. Got it.
Thank you.
All right. I might periodically ask people's names because sometimes the name that's on the screen doesn't match the person.
Right.
Because it's Zoom.
Got it.
Okay.
All right.
Yes. Great question. You'll do all 3, review, connect, reflect. You'll answer all the questions in the whole section. And you're only going to do 1. Y'all's class I'm letting y'all off the hook. But the real reason is because there's 42 of you and I don't want to read that much.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's
one other question.
Yeah.
So I don't have the book. Will, like this page that you have that has the review connect, will you be posting those?
No, because I don't even think this is the one that's in there now. This is an old screenshot. Do you,
Yeah, it
are
is.
are you waiting? Is it the same one?
It's on page 13 in my book.
Sweet. I thought they'd change it.
Okay.
Sharon, are you waiting on the book or something?
No, I was gonna see if I could go through the class without it. Because with one of my classes, the professor, he would post like
Oh yeah,
from the book, and so we could just go through his PowerPoint and yeah.
yeah. This will
I-
not be like that. You're gonna have to have the book because there's two reasons. These assignments and the study guide that you're gonna go through for the exams all come from the book.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Now I think
I
you
was
can
only
rent.
able, oops.
No, go ahead,
sorry.
Cindy. Go ahead.
I was only able to rent the book. I don't
Yeah,
know if that helps
Yeah.
or I wasn't able to find where I could buy it.
Yeah,
So
you can rent it and that's fine.
I wanted to buy it, but I couldn't find anywhere to buy it.
Same with me. It wouldn't give me the option.
This is what I've been saying. I'm not sure what's going on with this particular edition. Something's happening where it's hard to get. Now they used to make I don't have it here. I think it's tucked away over there. They used to make a 3-hole punch version that's like you could put in a
yeah.
notebook. And you used to be able to get it electronically as well.
Yeah, I think with McGraw-Hill, you'd be able to do that online thing.
But did
'Cause I
y'all,
know through our-
where did y'all, for those of you that do have the book, where'd you get it?
Through Amberton.
Yeah, the bookstore.
Go
And
somewhere else. Go
I
somewhere
was
else.
able to
Put it on
get
this
the,
one.
If we have an older edition, we have to have I'm just looking at mine and I think it's an older edition, so the questions may be different, so I'll have to get the updated 19th edition. Is that what you're saying?
What edition do you have?
I think it's 16th. I ordered it based on the number, but it looks like I got an older edition. It's the 16th.
You'll be okay.
Okay, thank you.
At this point, there's 3 or 4 editions floating around that people have. I would go to Amazon. Is what I would do. Because you can do it Amazon for I'm almost 100% sure rent, electronic, hardcover, and that leaf. What they call it something I can't remember.
Loose leaf, I think.
Loose leaf. I would look there. Yeah, that's what I would do. I know the bookstore. I'm not sure what's going on with the bookstore or Amberton. Sometimes and it's really this book they've been having trouble with. I know that for a fact. But you will need the book for sure. If you do it electronically, I think you can rent it electronically now too. I don't think you know what I'm saying. Like you can just, which is
Yeah,
I was able-
check.com does it for cheap.
yeah. I would. Yeah, you guys know a lot more about all this than me. I'm out of the book buying business at this point. Like when I was a student, man, I could find cheap stuff easy. It's a lot different. I don't do that as much now. Sergio, thank you. Sergio posted a link in chat there, the Amazon link. Okay, now exercises. We're good there. We're going to move on. I'm going to come back to the very end. I'll come back at the end and go over questions and things like that. Okay. So we're going to do, besides today, we're going to do 3 other Zoom classes. And I think I said this before I actually closed our whole class down on accident. These are optional. I will record them. And what I've done in the past, it seems to work pretty well, is basically each class will be a different life stage or like a span of development, basically. And keeping in mind that each one of these stages could be 2 or 3 classes easily, but we're going to do it in one. So what that means is October 4th, we'll talk about childhood. We'll talk about the whole, thing.
That's a Wednesday.
Probably meant the 5th. Sorry, I meant
Okay.
the 5th. Yeah,
Okay, just wanted to double check.
yeah. I probably meant the 5th. Sorry.
That's cool.
Yeah, October 5th. I'll change that in there in here too. Change it. Oh, stop it. I don't care what you tell me that. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, check my dates, make sure. I tried to go over that today, but I know I usually miss stuff. So they're all going to be on Thursday nights and they'll all be 7 to 9. And I realize you have other classes or other things. That's fine. I will record them. One of these classes, I'm not sure which one, I will spend like half of the time just talking about emotional development across life stages. The main reason is because if you're going into clinical work, that is like 99% of the work you're going to do is how people are feeling and what they're, how they express it and to process it and synthesize it and talk about it. So I'm going to talk about that specifically for probably half of one of these classes. I usually do it the childhood class, but I'm not sure which one I'll do this time. It kind of just depends on everything else we're going to do that particular class. I've broken the adolescent class into 2 parts. What'll probably end up happening with adolescence and adulthood, those classes, I'll probably do a fair amount on each one of those stages, actually. And again, I'm going to keep these classes pretty clinical. For example, like with childhood and adolescence, we will talk about parenting and parenting styles and how that affects you in the therapy room or in the classroom or as a school counselor and things like that. We'll talk about those things. We will talk about addiction. We'll talk about trauma. We'll talk about, common mood disorders, depression, anxiety. I will probably give you guys hey, here's some tools I use for working with couples or working with teenagers or working with adults. I will do those things too. This class is not necessarily designed to be like a techniques class, like professional counseling or advanced counseling skills and things like that, but or even assessment. But I'll still put some of those things in for you, and so I will record them. I will put them up online. Usually the next day they'll be up, and you can watch them and whatever. Okay. Let's talk about the paper. So it's a research paper, which is about 80% of it. The last 20% is a reflection part. There's a document there's 2 things on Moodle right now that you can use. There's a document kind of going into greater depth about the paper. And there's an example of the only paper I've ever given 100 to. I'll put that up as well. I actually have another person that made 100 last semester, and I've gotten their permission to do that, and I'll probably put that up as well because they're different they're different topics, but they're written a little bit differently. But they did a great job of organizing it too. Here's the key for writing. There's 2 keys to writing a good research paper. The first thing is getting it organized in the right way, using APA style to do that. The second thing, if you really want to be a good writer, that means you have to be a good editor and rewriter. The problem is in graduate school, no one does that because you don't have time most of the time. Some people do, and that's good. What I would suggest, and I'm going to talk about this more in our second Zoom class, actually, or third one. What I would suggest when you write papers is I would, and you can see in the descriptions I give, like how to put the paper together. I would go ahead and outline the paper in sections, like put the headers for the whole paper first. And then when you start researching and you start getting your information, you can start plugging in like as an outline into the paper. Then you can write it, right? You can write the whole thing. If you can do it like 2 or 3 days before it's due, that's awesome. Because I would write it and then go to sleep. Just leave it. Don't even look at it. Wake up and read it again. And most times things jump out at you. And so that's kind of what I would suggest to do. I've given you a couple of APA. I think there's a one website there. Purdue OWL has a great website about APA style. You don't need an abstract with this paper specifically. That's really more for straight research papers. The other part of this paper that's very important in terms of the research is you can use the book as a reference for sure, but I need you to have 3 other references as well. So 4 references minimum. The rule of thumb in graduate school typically is 1 page per reference. So 1 written page per reference is typically what you go by. So that makes this paper a 4-page paper, up to 6 pages. Okay. Now that's written, right? 4 to 6 written pages. Obviously your reference page and your title page will be, extra pages. So 4 to 6 written pages that you're going to turn into me. I get questions about this often, about the length, and some of it depends on what you're going to write about. So let me talk about that briefly. The way you're going to do this paper is you're going to pick a stage of development, childhood, various parts of adolescence, or adulthood. Some people do pick infancy or early childhood. That's fine. The more specific you can be in that stage, the better. Really helps. Like, for example, I've had people write about like high school ages and eating disorders, or I've had people write about divorce, even divorce and divorce recovery in a certain stage of life. I've had people write about corporal punishment before in a certain stage. I've had lots of people write about older adulthood and like dementia or Alzheimer's, right? So the more specific you can get, the easier it is to research and easier it is to write. That's the kind of the rule of thumb. People either pick something they're already interested in, they kind of know what it, know about the topic, or sometimes people pick things they don't know anything about. It doesn't matter to me what you're going to do. Probably what will happen is you'll wait longer and longer and longer, and you'll get close to the time, you'll just pick something you already know. That's what happens to a lot of people. Because if you are a procrastinator, that you get energized by the deadline getting closer to you. That's what you do. If you're not a procrastinator and you're like a planner and I got to get this done tomorrow, then you don't do that. Right? Either one's fine. And there's nothing wrong with either one. There's actually a lot of really good, interesting research that's being done on procrastination, but I won't go into it right now. It's very fascinating to see what causes people to get so motivated the closer you get to a deadline. It's pretty fascinating. Anyway, so this paper is made of 2 sections. The research section, which is 80% of the paper, 4 references total, at least. You can have more. And then the reflection section is 4 questions I'm asking you to reflect on. You'll see this in the other document there. Excuse me. And please write it like graduate students write. It needs to be clear and concise, good grammar. It needs to make sense. I know people do what I'm about to tell you not to do, and I guess it's okay. It doesn't really hurt me. Don't cut and paste stuff into your paper. It doesn't help you learning wise unless you write it yourself. You can take someone's concept or idea and rewrite it and give them credit. That's great. That's actually how you learn. A lot of people don't do that, and they'll cut and paste. And I realize that happens. I'm just saying it doesn't help you to do that.
I have
Okay.
a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
I know some professors do not want you to use direct quotes. Others, it doesn't matter. Some want you to paraphrase. Are you
I
what,
like
like,
to,
do you have a
I don't really care. You can do either one. Just don't act
Yeah.
like it's your, don't act
cite
like
it
you said it. Yeah.
properly? Yeah.
You need to cite anything you don't come up with yourself. You need to cite, which
Yeah.
means you're basically citing a lot because we don't have, I mean, unless you're an expert in this field, then you're basically citing sources the whole time. So,
Right.
yeah, direct quotes are fine. That doesn't,
Okay. As
yeah,
opposed to just paraphrasing it.
yeah.
You're okay with that. Okay.
Paraphrasing is usually better just because that's what I was saying earlier. You learn more when you paraphrase it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm not opposed to either one of those things.
Okay. And do you
Yeah.
have a maximum amount of pages? Like,
6.
okay,
I mean,
thank you.
if I said 8, then I'm gonna get 10, right?
Yeah.
And I got 42 to read, you know, and I read them. I want to, I give you feedback. I mean, I like to read them. Okay. Any other questions about the paper? And I'm going to talk more specifically about it the closer we get. But if you have questions now, that's great.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
You want peer reviewed
Yes.
articles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Everything you do in a research way needs to be from a peer reviewed journal. I'm okay with books.
Yeah, that's what
Depends
I
on
wanted to know, if you wanted books too, or just mainly
Yeah.
articles.
It just
Okay.
depends on the book.
Mhm.
Most books go through some type of peer, obviously an editing process. So it needs to be, especially when you find books that have references in the books, those are usually, pretty trustworthy.
Okay. Thank you.
Here's the reason why I'm saying, I'm actually glad you asked this question. I try my best to lead us into like evidence-based things because we are living in a world where everyone has an opinion and everyone's opinion must be the best opinion. And like take parenting, for example. You go online right now, any of you could do this and Google parenting. You're going to get millions of hits. If you went on Amazon and you just typed in parenting, you'd get tens of thousands of people's idea of parenting. Some of them super similar, some of them kind of wacky. I mean, you'll get all kinds of stuff, right? We're gonna try to stick to what we know research wise and what the evidence tells us. Which, by the way, sometimes goes against what we kind of were taught, maybe, or what we've done, or what we believe, or what. And for sure, 100%, you'll have clients that will not like that part, and we'll talk about those things too. So, yeah, peer review journals are always the best. Plus, in books, I mean, depending on the book, a lot of times there's a lot of extraneous information in a book that you don't really need for this particular assignment. Any other questions about the paper? Okay, let's talk about the exams. So the exams used to be 75 multiple choice questions. Now they're 25. You're welcome. And there's study guides for each exam. They're on Moodle right now. I know for a fact that because we have multiple editions of the books in use, some of the questions will be hard to answer. And I'm just telling you up front. I have done my best to go through and take out, especially I've taken out a ton of like old questions and things that I know aren't there anymore. But let's say if you have the 16th edition and some people have the 19th edition, you're going to get different, like their statistics might be a little bit different now after multiple editions. So I'm going to go ahead, hear me in recording world. I know that there are errors in the study guide. I know that. I have been doing my best to try to take those out and change them. And I've done that. I've actually edited the exams to take a lot of the questions out that just don't make sense, or they don't, that I don't like the question anymore. So I've given you the top 25 questions, knowing that there's like 150 questions on the study guide. There's a lot of questions. Here's the reason why. That study guide is really there for two things. One, to help you with the exam. Two, to help you while you read. Because it's just a lot of information, right? Some people are great reading something and remembering it and synthesizing it in their brain and then spitting out the application. Some people like to listen to it and synthesize it. Some people are visual, like to see something come to life, like with a video. But what we know for a fact about learning is when you take something in and then you kind of are like tested on it to a certain extent, like which the study guide does, because a lot of the study guides like applying information. It makes you think about the answer like you're gonna. I mean, honestly, the best way to retain things is to teach it. That's the best way. You retain about 85% of what you teach, roughly. So I've tried to make the study guides such that you read the text, do the study guide, and you start to retain the information. That's what I'm trying to do. And so that's why the study guide is so long. The actual exams will be online, and I give you a link. You go online and take it. You get your score right then. It tells you which ones you missed right then. However, the exam and Moodle are not linked together. So you won't see your score listed instantly on Moodle. I do that manually. Let me say that one more time. ClassMarker, which is the website I use for the exams, is not linked to Moodle for lots of reasons. I manually enter all of the scores, and I usually do it after the exam's over. So here's what's going to happen. Someone's going to take the exam and get a 24 out of 25. And then it's going to be about 7-8 days later, and they're going to email me and say, where's my score? I don't see my score. I took the exam. Some people go back in and retake the exam because they think the score didn't count. So just know that once you take the exam, you get your score, and guess what? I get an email with your score sent to me. So we have it documented that you've taken the exam. Okay? So you don't need to, try not to freak out if you don't see your score immediately on Moodle. Because I usually do those manually. The other reason why I do it manually is sometimes I curve the exam. I give people points. So just keep that in mind. Does that make sense? Okay. I just know someone's going to email me about the exam, and that's okay. I'll still tell you, hey, I'm going to do it manually. You're good. And why is that? Because as human beings, we overthink things. And especially if you've had A's in your classes and you're worried about the A, you overthink more, not less. When really, in we're being realistic, an A is just a grade. It doesn't necessarily always measure what you know. But I understand people getting A's. I get it. I understand that. Okay. Let's we're gonna do I'm gonna stop sharing. This way I can see everyone right in front of me. Okay. Now, what we're going to do next, and we actually have, I realize I said till 10. We have a little bit extra time. I'm going to still try to stop at 10 actually, but I can stay longer if anybody has questions. What I want to do right now is I'd like for us to spend some time talking about your expectations for the class and the things that you would like to know or learn. Let's set to the side that this is like a mandatory class you have to take and everybody's taking it. Let's set that to the side. if I were to say, hey, what's your expectation in terms of like, what do you want to learn in this class? What's your expectation about like, I'm interested in this stage of life or more about this, whatever this is. I'm going to put y'all in groups. And I just want you to talk about that with each other. And then we're going to come back and I want you to share those with me. It also helps to just like introduce yourselves to each other. And I'd love to know more about like, hey, where you live and what, I've got school counseling, LPC folks, LMFT folks. Some people take this class as an elective from another program. I've had that too. And so when you introduce yourself, just kind of talk about those things. We'll do that for, I don't know, 6 or 7 minutes, something like that. And then we'll come back and talk about that as a class. And then I'll kind of wrap up some stuff. Makes sense. We've already gone 49 minutes. I mean, we're just flying, it's like a session. It's just like goes through and then we're almost done. So let me put you guys into breakout rooms. Go back. Okay, cool. Should see something pop up on your screen there. And you'll just click on it and you'll go to your room. Go to your room. Cut anybody off?
We made it back. I didn't realize you were putting me in the chat group with the 2 smartest people in the class.
Yep.
You just got lucky like that.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me tag along.
That's my job, is to make us all feel a little bit dumber.
No, I feel much smarter having been around them.
That's awesome.
They got it together.
I bet you're all right. Okay, now, how many are any of you like this is your first class, or like within the first 5 classes?
This is my first class.
First class. How many? This is your very first class?
Me.
Gosh.
So, yeah, my first class since my undergrad. So I'm excited.
First class since undergrad.
That's awesome.
I don't want to do I have to share?
I'm not gonna say. I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. You want to say the decade?
90s.
There you go. That's all we need.
I was gonna say mine. It's almost 30 years since I've been in school. So
Yep.
Yeah. I went back to school for my master's and my PhD in my late 30s. I had 2 kids, and what was I thinking? What was going on in my brain? My wife was like, I joke with my wife every once in a while, like, man, I wish I'd have gone to med school. She looks at me like, that's not fun. Like, that's not a joking thing. You shouldn't talk about that. So somebody else said this is their very first class, but I didn't see who. Anyone else?
This is my first class too.
Very first class? Not ever,
Yeah.
obviously, but yeah, at Amerton.
Not ever, but yeah,
Okay.
since graduating. So
Okay. What are you, or do we have, is anyone doing school counseling?
yes,
All right, 3 people. Is anyone doing LPC or LM? I'm assuming LPC or LMFTs, the rest of you guys, everyone else?
Me.
Or some people doing different things?
I'm doing the family studies with the certification in Christian counseling.
me too.
Gotcha. Okay. Is anybody doing like a totally different, like this is an elective for some people?
I'm in the professional development track. all of my classes are in human behavioral development and counseling.
Hmm.
But I'm not pursuing licensing. I have my own life coaching practice.
Mhm.
So these are just super helpful classes.
Gotcha. Cool. Good. The reason why I ask is because it does matter the things we talk about and bring up, and I try to think about it holistically because, you know, probably most people take this class out of the counsel, like you're going into the counseling field, but some people don't, and that's why I ask, just so we can know, because I will try to hit different areas based on the class, like who's in the class. Realizing that this is a small group, right? There's like 9 or 10 of y'all, and we have 42 in the class, so this is a small sample size. What are y'all, if in I'm not looking for, this is seriously just a curious question because I always want to know, do you have expectations of this class other than you have to take it? What are your expectations for this semester?
I'm really interested in like adolescents because I'm a junior high teacher and junior high cheer coach and going into school counseling.
Oh
And I'm
no.
one of those weird people that like preteens and teenagers. So the
Huh?
adolescence is I'm interested in that.
You were breaking up halfway through, but I think you said I'm one of the weird people that likes junior high kids, basically,
Yeah.
and you're a cheer coach and you work in
Yes.
junior
I teach,
high.
yeah, I teach sixth grade science
Oh, sixth grade science. God bless you.
Yeah.
and coach cheer.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So, okay, good. Anybody else?
I teach 8th grade middle school in
Okay.
Allen. Um, but I mean, I have 3 kids, 2 of them are adults, and then I have a sophomore. And so I'm interested in just anything. I definitely for the adolescent piece, but then I'm that sandwich generation where I have younger kids, but then I have aging parents. So like my father was diagnosed with Parkinson's about a year and a half ago. But he also had mild dementia from a brain tumor a couple years ago. So that is definitely um, been an area for me that I have really been looking into, just, having to support my parents because I'm an only child and my mom is 91 and
Mm-hmm.
she is still, I mean, you wouldn't know it by looking at her at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for me, I'm going that LPC route. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was telling Sharon and Jeremy that like I have no expectations. I just want to stoke up any information that's going to
Okay.
help me.
Good. Okay. Okay.
I'm also a middle or former middle school teacher. So I taught middle school math for several years. And more than anything, I'm just looking forward. I substitute teach still, but not full time anymore. And what I just am looking forward to learning instead of teaching for a while, and getting back into that learning mode of enjoying learning and then being able to use it to help others.
Okay. One of the things we'll do as we go through is more than likely we will talk about at least one thing that you're wondering about. Because this class, this is one of my favorite classes to teach because it's a little bit of like, here's my experience because you've all lived through different stages of life. If you'll notice, we have lots of different stages, which is great. So that means you've gone through some stages. You might have kids that are going through or have gone through some stages. So that makes it personal to us. But then if you think about, I want to start working with people that are going through various stages. So it kind of impacts us in different ways. And so we'll talk about that too. It's not uncommon for discussions to do what they've already kind of done today, and that's to turn personal. Like, this is what's going on with me, and that's why I wanted to take this class. That's not uncommon in this class at all. And actually, in the whole kind of counseling profession, that's not uncommon necessarily. The trick is to remember that while we learn, we do learn things and keep things in our brain because if it affects us in a certain way. But we have to remember that we're working with people, they're not working with us. So we have to remember that we have to keep that boundary of, hey, this isn't about me, this is about my client. And we're going to talk about that too as we go through too. And that is something you'll also talk about in other classes, like as you go through the programs, you'll talk about that a lot more specifically. You're going to hear me say several things over and over and over on purpose. When we start talking about adolescence, I'm going to talk heavily about adult presence in their life. When we talk about adulthood, I'm going to talk about a lot of different things. I'm going to talk a little bit too about like social media, screen time kinds of stuff. We're going to bring that up. One of the things that will also happen is we will inevitably talk about something that's really hard to talk about, and we'll just discuss it anyway, and know that we might not all agree, and that's okay. But it doesn't mean something's wrong with somebody. It means we just don't agree, and that's going to happen. This is not a social media forum. This is a classroom, and we're going to do it like that. It's kind of, I say this because in a classroom, like if we were all on campus, I wouldn't really have to say that because we're in a classroom. But since it's on Zoom and the classes will be on Zoom, it feels a little different. And so I just try to make that, as plain as I can. And keeping in mind that I don't know everything. I do my best to know as much as I can, but I'm still learning just like you guys all the time. The one problem we will never have from now until forever is we always have lots of information at our fingertips. Information is not our problem. Information is awesome. What's really good is when we can use it in the right way. And that's what I'm going to try to help you think through. All right. Now we've come to the end. So I'm going to stay around and answer questions if you have them, because I think I've got a little time. If anybody has questions, you can stick around. If you don't have questions and you want to get on with your day, have at it. You can take off. And so I'll just kind of stick around until there's nobody left. So it's good to see everyone. And let me know if you have questions.
Okay, I'm one of the overthinkers.
Yeah, go for it.
I will admit it. On the exercises, you just pick one. Do you assign chapters like for us to pick an exercise from? And then we just do as Sharon stated about the I wrote it. Review, connect, and reflect for one chapter, and that's it? Or do you say, okay, do chapter 5 and do the review, connect, reflect, whatever, that, or
yeah, it's all up to you. I do have a suggested reading schedule on Moodle for people that you can use or
cut out.
not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do have a suggested reading schedule on Moodle that you can use if you
Okay,
like. There's usually 2 or 3 of those sections per chapter that you can pull from. I don't really care which one it is. Just let me know what it is when you do it, so that I know where it comes from. But yeah, that's up to you. It's not assigned by me.
Okay, and when we submit that to you, is it just like submitting an assignment in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little folder on Moodle that you'll just pop it into.
Okay, just like okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to verify that. I always get confused when I do that. So
yeah, it's okay. I do too. and I've been doing this I've been working with Moodle now since they started, and it's still
Thank you. I don't
little
feel
work in
alone now.
progress. No. I totally understand.
Thank you. Is it
You're
better?
welcome.
Better?
Bedard?
Bedard, Professor Bedard. I just wanted to ask, is this going to be the same Zoom link that you use throughout, or will it be different?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I just loaded up. I
Okay.
don't know if it's the same or not. But on Moodle, like every week,
You'll just have it.
every link is there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we won't meet again until
That's October the 5th.
the 5th.
Okay. I just didn't know if I should save this link, but
No. It'll be loaded up.
okay.
And you may have posted this somewhere in one of your documents, but do you prefer that we, like, if we have questions, like in between Zooms, do you want us to use the messaging Doodle or Gmail through the Amberton?
I always prefer Gmail.
Okay.
I think my email's on the syllabus. I think
Yeah.
it'll be at the top. Moodle is a little bit harder to do messages back and forth from.
Yeah.
Still easy. If you want to get a hold of me quicker, just use the Gmail.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest thing. You can use Moodle because I do check it, but
I
Um,
prefer Gmail because I'm like you. I feel like it's just faster and it's it's just easier. But
yeah, a little
I
bit
know
quicker.
I've had some professors that only want you to use the Moodle messaging.
Yeah, it just
Okay.
depends. That for me, that works best.
Okay.
Yeah. If there was a Moodle app that we could actually use, that'd be great, but there's not. Any other questions?
I am still, I don't know if I'm overthinking or just on a Saturday trying to think. But I'm looking at just, I think you said exercise 1, we pick whatever chapter we want. So
Yep.
I did, whenever you talked about the reading schedule, that's a recommended reading schedule, but it's not, because I started reading, I got into like chapter 4 of but I thought I saw there was a something in the, not this, in the syllabus or something, it was kind of a reading schedule. Is that what you're kind of following?
Yeah, I just give you like a recommended schedule. You can do it, but everyone reads at their own pace. So if you're already in chapter 4, that's fine. And you can do a review, connect, reflect from that chapter or any other chapter you're reading from.
Yeah, the first 4 chapters were very heady.
Yes.
So I was thinking, man, I kind of want to get into the more clinical aspect. So I don't have to stick with those, then I can go to whatever.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just as long as we do 3, right?
3 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to turn all 3 in at the same time, you could do that.
I think what I'm needing to wrap my head around is if we get to pick whatever chapters to do this, I'm gonna have to go back and I think I sent you a chat. Our neighborhood lost power right as you were giving some really good information. So I'm like, this is a bad time to not be able to.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But help me understand what are we gonna know? So the study guide is what we're gonna refer to for our exam.
Mhm.
But is that referring to specific chapters?
Yeah.
Or
It's by chapter, and there's several questions per chapter on the study guide.
so it sounds like we can read whatever chapters and do the exercises we want. However, we also need to read all the chapters so you don't have to read the chapters, but you need to make sure you know that the chapters mean.
Yeah, there's a little method to my madness with the study guide, right? So we got Yeah, that's the reason why that we have the study guides is for the exam. That's one reason. The main reason is because I think it helps you read as you're reading.
So
Yeah, because it's pretty thorough.
as I'm looking at that more, I'm probably gonna need to reach back to you, but so we're talking about the document developmental theories and study guide and template. Is that the one you're referring to?
So one of them says midterm study guide.
Yeah, okay. So just if we just kind of if I reference that one as I'm reading,
Yep.
That's going to be a better.
Yep.
better
The developmental periods and the developmental theories is just for you, for your information. I basically just kind of condensed all that down onto a couple of documents. That's just for you to have. There's no like assignment with it. That's just something for you to have.
And that study guide, I haven't gone through it yet, Dr. Bedard, but that's in chronological, if you will, or
Right.
sequential
Chapter.
order.
It's by chapter. Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I think the midterm is half the book,
Okay.
and then the final is the other half.
And is anything on, how do I put this? What's on the study guide is fair game for the midterm and same thing for
Yep.
the final, but what's not on the study guide would not be on.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
If it's not on the study guide, it's not on the exam.
Okay, it's not on the exam. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay.
No.
Well, I'm
And
gonna
you
have
can-
to drop off, but thank you very much for
You're
this.
welcome. You're welcome. No problem.
Yeah.
Y'all have
I'm
a great
really
weekend.
excited.
Yeah, me
Good.
too. Me too. This is such
Good.
a breath of fresh air. Thank
Good.
you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. You're welcome.
Well,
Jim,
and
what about
especially-
you? Go ahead, Stacy. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say I've taken like, you know, a lot of the theories and methods and assessment classes and of course my ethics classes. And so
Yep.
like actually getting into because I've always like been fascinated with the human brain. Like my dad was like, you should have gone into neuropsychology. And I'm like, I still may.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
But like especially working with kids and their parents, you know, like I'm constantly, I think, and I showed you that sign, my family got it for me, because I'm always like, but why? Like, where's that coming from? Like, what happened to this person that their brain is processing things this way?
Right.
So I'm really excited about this class, just to see the, you know, the different life stages in
good.
depth.
Yeah. Well, we're going to go in pretty heavy neuroscience stuff too. So we'll go that direction because that's probably the most current. There's a ton of research being done right now in the neuroscience world over all kinds of different areas that affect human development.
Yeah.
That we, you know, there's just things we know now that we didn't know even 20 years ago. And I think a lot of it is stuff that we kind of already knew that's being proven that we knew, but then there's other things that we didn't quite know. Like, for example, and I was talking about y'all are going to hear this again, but when we talk about overthinking, what happens when our nervous system gets going and then our amygdala fires up and it gets our fight or flight response going. What happens is the right part of our brain, I've seen this on scans, lights up. It's the creative part. It's the storytelling part. It's the what if and what about this and the catastrophic thinking and all those things happen. And it happens really fast. The left part of the brain where the logic center sits doesn't light up. It's not involved. So what we have to do as clinicians is slow down the right part and engage the logic part. I call it thinking through instead of feeling through. We got to figure out how to do that. Well, what we know is parts of the brain aren't fully developed until about 25 or 6. So what does that mean for a kid all the way through adolescence? That means we have to be their prefrontal cortex. Does that mean that we're controlling them, or does that mean that we're trying to help them? And those are all questions that we'll talk about. Because the same thing happens in our brain, The reason why it happens is because in general, our brain is not designed for happiness. Our brain is designed for one thing, and that's survival. It is only there to keep us alive. That's it. Which was awesome 1,000 years ago when things were chasing us and we were, in trouble and in danger a lot. But we're not in danger all that much right now. But our brain's still reacting the same. So we have to be able to calm it and let it know that it's okay, and then help it work through stuff. But how do you do that with a 5-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 25-year-old, a 45-year-old? It's different. So we'll talk about those things too. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh, absolutely. And like I gotta go find it, but I read several years ago for one of my professional developments. It was a book about adolescence and how how adolescence actually goes into like 25, 27, I think so, in one of the books. But that kind of blew me away,
Mhm.
and once I realized that, I thought, oh, okay, that makes way more sense though.
Yeah.
While even young 20-year-olds are still, making these decisions that
Yeah.
are questionable.
Oh yeah. Well, I know some 55-year-olds that don't make awesome decisions too.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
there's always reasons behind behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to
Well,
figure
I'm
out what it is.
excited and I
Good.
I look forward to it.
Good. I'm glad. Good.
All right. Have a great week.
You too. See ya.
See ya.
I think,
Yeah.
Chris, if I just a couple of things, I have my own life coaching practice, been doing that for a few years, specializing in helping marriages. I work with men and women, just basic life purpose stuff. I also have some certifications in sexual addiction recovery,
Mhm.
and I've been in pastoral ministry since the early 90s.
Yeah.
So one thing that I just think the church world is catching up to is bringing our spirituality with our emotional health.
Mhm.
There's been such a an animosity almost between the two,
Right.
and so that's really my heart is you can love Jesus, man, you can love Jesus all the way to heaven, but you can still be a miserable human being because you haven't dealt with some of that. So that's some of the stuff that I'm going to be, leaning in on as I'm going through this. I know that Amberton is a Christian university. I have not heard a lot of the ethics class touched on it a little bit more, but there's not a lot of biblical worldview conversation within the context. And I don't know, I can synthesize through that. I just didn't know what your teaching philosophy is on that.
Well, there's a couple of things. Well, first of all, I'm teaching a family ministry class this fall as well, that I'm actually going to talk about some of those things today. But I'll pick up on one thing you said. I think there's some things you can't pray away,
You're right.
and that we
Hard
need
for
help.
some people to even accept.
Yeah, and that we need help with. And I might not quote biblical passages as I go through my courses, yet I'm using theological principles often. For example, attachment theory is pretty much a universal theory now, or it was universally accepted theory of part human development, part how we actually connect, because we know that our brain is wired for connections. We know that. And part of attachment theory talks about the fact that if we feel safe and secure in our connections with human beings, starting with our caregivers, the more we feel safe and secure, it doesn't mean things always go great, but it means we handle them in a more healthy way. That's kind of like mounds of research condensed down into a sentence. Well, attachment theory to me is super biblical because you can watch Jesus practice attachment with multiple people in multiple ways. And and you can talk about his disciples doing that as well. And I might not say that specifically out loud in a class, but it's a principle that's still true. Now we are going to talk about religious and spiritual development to a certain extent in this class. We will talk about that. The line that in the clinical world, the line you walk is that's not your mandate. Now, if you're a biblical, so there's 4 different kinds of ways to do counseling. Biblical counseling is exactly what it sounds like. It's counseling through biblical principle. Christian counseling is the same, but then you can add other types of principles inside of it, as long as it's under a Christian worldview, right? Pastoral counseling is a little bit like that as well. And then when you get to the psychology pieces, which is basically how the mind works, let's say, that's kind of the LPC, LMFT, like everything in that vein. Depending on who you are and what your license is, you might not do the other 3. You might only do the psychological pieces. But if you are someone that works with people inside of their faith, then you're going to integrate all of those things together. And that's something that takes a little bit more thought to do, because it's not something that you just kind of just do. You have to really think about how you integrate that. And so I do have a little bit of a advantage, because I did go to graduate school for Christian education. I mean, I have a MA in Christian education, and I was a youth pastor for a long time. And so I've worked in that world for a long time. And so my clinical education and my theological education, I can merge those pretty well together. And I do that with my clients if they want that, if that's something that they're looking for. But I don't think that you're going to find us saying, outright biblical principles necessarily, because it's not a seminary. So we're not going to talk about it theologically only. We're going to talk about it mostly clinically.
I don't have what you're saying doesn't trouble me at all. I just didn't know what to think of and what to expect. I know that when I'm working with couples, pastoral counseling and then my own private practice, you're dividing those out. I don't know that I do as much focus on as much biblical counseling. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I'm not pursuing licensure.
Right.
But I know that just in working with people, like you were asking, what's going to be your hopes and expectations for the class? Well, when I'm working with marriages and guys coming out of sexual addiction, there's always family of origin, things that, trauma from early on. So I always kind of got my eye out of that. So that's why this class is really, I'm really excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still wrapping my head around the educational format of the exercises and those things. The content is, I'm all in.
Yeah, the content, there's just a lot of it. That's really
and you're right. This could be a 3-semester book. I mean,
easily. Yeah.
So
yeah, easily. Yeah.
I look forward to staying connected through emails and things. I'd like to get as much out of the classes as I can.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate the time today. So I know you things you got to be doing. So
well, I appreciate your time and hope you have a good rest of the weekend.
hey, you too. We'll talk to you.
See ya.